I want to start by telling you a story about a small community near the town of Narok in Kenya. This was a Maasai community whose livelihood depended on raising cattle, sheep and goats. Increasingly, their way of life had been threatened by a shortage of land and pasture because it was being sold off for agricultural use. Their children didn't have access to good schooling, and there were poor health facilities, and their future was looking bleak. About 10 years ago, a Kenyan facilitator called Francis Njoroge took them through a process called Emoja, which is similar to Qavar. The community became unified and self-sufficient, and the church played a key role in bringing this all about. When I evaluated this project some years later, I asked the community members what they felt had been the critical element that allowed them to make this change. And they said it was Francis, the way he became part of our lives and our community. He just loved us. He loved our old people, he loved our children, he even loved our chickens. He gave us the confidence to make these changes that have transformed our community today.
This passion and love of people is the most important quality of the Qavar facilitator. So when we think about working with our community, the starting point is building relationships. You can't just go and say to people, this is how you can solve your problems. You need to win their trust and their respect, and have a rapport which gives the community a reason to listen to you and a desire to work together to make things better.
It may be that your church already has good relationships with the community, which you can build on. In other situations, your church might be a minority religion, and it's difficult to find a natural way to engage the community. For example, in countries that are predominantly Hindu or Muslim, there may not be a natural link with the community. Whatever your situation, you need to go into your communities with a humble heart and an openness to learn.
When Moses stood before the burning bush, God told him to take his shoes off because he was standing on holy ground. This is a very moving passage because we hear about Moses hearing and feeling God's pain for the suffering people of Israel. This is deeply profound because as we tread on the soil of our communities, we are treading on holy ground. We need to hear, see and feel at gut level the pain the people are going through. We also need to recognise that communities are constantly changing and have their own dynamics, and we need to take time to appreciate this.
Treading on holy ground means acknowledging that all people are made in the image of God, regardless of race, tribe, gender and colour. A community's past, culture and traditions should always be respected. And we go to listen and learn and not make assumptions. And we allow the community to become the teachers, and we become the pupils.
The story of the Good Samaritan helps us to think about what might be the barriers to coming alongside people who are different from ourselves, and challenges us about some of our prejudices in regard to race, religion and gender.
So now that we've thought about our attitudes as we go into the community, let's think about some of the practical ways of building relationships and gathering information with the community. Firstly, celebrate existing relationships and look at ways of making them stronger. Look for opportunities to build new relationships through simple acts of kindness. and identify people who have influence and could be important allies for helping the community engage in the Qavar process. Allow plenty of time for them to ask questions, debate and challenge the idea so they gain ownership. Informal contact is as important as formal meetings, and people tend to open up more when they're relaxed. When the community leaders are on board, encourage them to host a community meeting to actually introduce Qavar.
Once relationships have been built, as the church did at the envisioning stage, there should be celebration activities with the community to identify and celebrate their resources and achievements. Then it is time to identify the needs that exist in the community through various gathering information tools. When gathering information, there are three main areas to draw from. The first one is discussion groups made up of young people, parents and the elderly. The second group are people who have specialist knowledge in certain areas, such as health workers, social workers, teachers and government officials. The third source of information is from local statistics.
To gather this information, we use a range of participatory tools, which enable the community to express themselves and gain ownership of the issues they feel are most important to them. And once the information is gathered, it's analysed and then prioritised.
The process and the way it is carried out is just as important as the project or initiative that comes from it, because transformation is only sustainable if achieved in a spirit of cooperation and good relationships.